Phil was around 5 years old when he asked to have a vinyl recording of a symphony put on the turntable. Then, as our parents, my sister, and myself listened, Phil got up on a small box and conducted the symphony. From an early age, Phil loved music, and specifically classical music. Shortly after that performance, on June 7th, 1962, he would start weekly piano lessons with Mrs. Kittleson on our Vashon Island home. Phil excelled and embraced his lessons, but he was also just a kid growing up in our bucolic little paradise on Vashon. By the time he was in high school, Phil was quite an accomplished pianist, at least to the untrained ear of an older brother. When he was 15, he was a closing pupil at that year's recital, playing Coeur de Lune and Arabesque by Claude Debussy. Perhaps some fitting music as a backdrop for some photos of Phil's youth and his family. Phil was restless and unchallenged in high school and was a member of the self-described nerd group who would hang out together at lunchtime. Also members of this group were fellow Honor Society childhood friends Bill Slaughter and Jim Beal. Phil thought his time better spent reading history books in the library than sitting through history class. I'll let Phil relate that little story in his own words.
I became known to the office ladies. I'd show up at the office the last period of the day. Because that last period of the day was history. I hated them. I thought they were awful teachers. So for the last couple of periods of the day, I'd hide out in the library, just read what I wanted to. And if I remember, some of it was relevant. You know, I'd read stuff about U.S. history while skipping the history class. And I'd go in during the last period of the day to the nice office ladies and smile, becoming smile, and I'd assist them in recording attendance.
Specifically yours.
Yeah, well, that was the point of it. I helped with the other attendance as well.
Our parents sensed his growing boredom with high school on Vashon Island and his growing devotion to the piano, so they encouraged him to audition to get into the music school at the University of Washington. Again, Phil describes that audition far better than I can.
My audition for the School of Music was in front of Neil O'Done, Randy Hokinson, Bill Shiki, and Alberto. And I played the Bach Prelude and Fugue from Book 2 of the Well-Tempered Clavier. And I got lost in the middle. It was this, and it's a phrase that's very similar to to a phrase in the end of the piece, except the end of the piece has a B natural in it. And the first statement of the theme at the beginning had a B flat. So that the first time we make a modulation from C major to F major, hence the B flat. And the B natural is in the last statement of the fugue, which keeps it in the key of C. And I kept on playing a B natural. I took like 3 stabs at it. And then I hear someone from the audience go, B flat. Played the B flat, it was right, I went on. And that was Shiki. And then I studied with Neil O'Done. Shiki didn't take me as a student at that time. And anyhow, that summer, my freshman year, the piano faculty rotated summers. There would be one guy who would teach all the students in summer. And that summer changed my life. And at the end of that summer, I asked Shiki if I could study with him. And he said yes, but that first I had to talk to Mr. O'Done. First I had to talk to him, tell him that this is what my plan was, basically to get his approval. It was a big lesson in how you deal with stuff professionally, how you treat other people. And this is why I say that Shiki was a second father to me, because Shiki taught me, not just about music, but about interaction with other people professionally, and how to practice, how to learn a piece of music. I used to say that Shiki taught me how to shave.
Phil would stay with Shiki for 5 years while he was at the University of Washington as an undergraduate. From there, Phil would attend the Manhattan School of Music for a short time, the University of Texas at Austin, then to the Cincinnati School of Music, where he was also working in the opera department. He finished a master's degree there and almost a second. Then love and a child became an important part of his life. Phil loved Megan and was a good dad. Pictures speak better than words. Phil was making a living as an accompanist and later was hired by the Cincinnati Opera, where he worked for 10 years, often with Megan in attendance. Phil worked for a few years for the Loveland City School District as an accompanist for their choirs, before being recruited by the head of the University of Dayton School of Music, where he would spend the next 15 years. Interspersed through Phil's life have been visits to and from his family. Mom, Dad, our sister Margaret, and myself were very proud of his endeavors. Phil loved to play. He loved performing. Student recitals, faculty recitals, accompanying Stanford Olson at the Alice Tully Hall in New York was a high point for Phil and Mom and Dad. One of the few video performances captured of Phil performing was when he had a short recital for the residents of our parents' assisted living facility. He gave it the same attention as any of his other performances. I think it's kind of fun to listen in for a few minutes to Phil introducing a piece of music he was going to play.
As Victoria told you, I just returned from 2 weeks in Europe with the University of Dayton Chorale. And interestingly enough, I went on tour, but I didn't play a note. We found something out about different cultures in our tour, and one of the things that we found out is that in churches in Europe, at least in the continent, they only have organs. They do not have pianos. So I got a free trip to Europe. And I felt guilty for the first couple of days, but then I got over it. But part of the reason why I bring that up is because one of the places we visited was Vienna, Austria, and in Vienna we got to see several of these composers' residences. We passed by one of the residences of Haydn, Franz Joseph Haydn, actually just right across the square from the Winter Palace, which was kind of neat to be able to look on the square that Haydn looked out upon when he actually might have been composing the piece I just played. That was written in the time that he was living in Vienna. The next piece I'm going to play is sort of has a Viennese connection as well. I grew up listening to a lot of great pianists, and one of the great pianists I listened to was a German pianist by the name of Wilhelm Kempff. Wilhelm Kempff was a remarkable artist, and he wrote a number of transcriptions of Bach organ pieces. He was an organist as well as a pianist, and he carried on the tradition of Franz Liszt and Busoni, who made these organ transcriptions. In Cincinnati, Ohio, where I live, I ordered some of these transcriptions, might be 3 years ago, and it still has not arrived. But I walked into a music store in Vienna, and between a little bit of my bad German, my bad Italian, their bad English, I asked for these Wilhelm Kempff transcriptions, and they immediately went to the shelf and pulled them off. So I would like to play for you a transcription by Wilhelm Kempff of the chorale prelude Nun komm der Heiden Heiland by Johann Sebastian Bach.
We're going to jump ahead to the last piece of Phil's 35-minute performance, including a custodial guy walking by. Perhaps it's a first for Phil? I enjoy just watching and listening to Phil play and talk, and I hope you do as well.
Once again, hello. Did I turn it on? Okay, that was.
You're on. Whether the mic is on, I don't know, but you're on.
Huh?
Mic's not on.
It's not on. All right. How about this? Is it on now? There's 88 of those, and I know which way they go. There's only 2 directions for this, and I'm clueless. I just want to say once again what a pleasure it has been to be here this morning and to play for you. Thank you very much.
Philip Ferris. Philip, thank you. It's a really sincere thank you for taking your time, and I know you really are exhausted, and it was delightful. Everybody was just spellbound listening. It was really, you know, we all had food here for our bodies. You gave us food for our soul. So it was wonderful. Wait, this is Margaret and Ed Ferris, the proud parents. There we go. They arrived at Panorama just last year from Ritzville, wherever that is. Washington.
Mostly from Vashon Island.
Around Vashon Island. There we go. Thanks. Thanks again.
As much as Phil loved performing, perhaps most of all, Phil loved teaching, mentoring his students, and being with his many friends, who I know are aware that at times Phil could be just a little bit crazy. There is scant information about the following performance. No one seems to recall much about it, perhaps for self-evident reasons. In summer of 2001, Phil had surgery on both wrists for carpal tunnel syndrome. Oddly, and perhaps ominously, although better, he still was having trouble playing the piano. He started seeing a neurologist who had uncovered that there was something more central to the difficulty with his hands: Parkinson's. Thus would begin the long, ever-changing, and more debilitating part of his life. For a few years, with the assistance of some drugs, he was able to continue playing, but eventually the drugs became increasingly ineffective, and he would have to retire from performing, although he was fortunate to be able to continue teaching until 2016, when his health forced him to retire from that as well. In 2010, Phil would become a grandfather for the first of 3 times, and he embraced and loved that role. The background music for this section is a faculty recital that Phil performed in November of 2001, shortly after having his carpal tunnel surgery and before his Parkinson's diagnosis. The piece is a rondo in D major by Mozart. Phil, my brother, was who I could talk to when I had questions about music or musicians. What did those little squiggles mean on a staff of music? What did he think about any musician in any genre? Anything about music theory? He would be able to not only tell me what, but the why and the history behind his answers. He was a musician's musician in my mind, and that was the essence of Phil. But that was incomplete, and I would only learn that after he passed on. The essence of Phil was much more. It was when he would collaborate with other musicians, when he would mentor students and other musicians, when he would teach not only musicians, but those engineers that needed that one distributive class in music appreciation. Reading the comments that those people made about the impact that Phil had on their lives led me to understand that that was actually the essence of Phil, the relationships that he built and fostered as a result of his passion for music. Here are just a few of the many comments from his many friends.
My name is Katie Opscurry, and I was a student of Phil's at the University of Dayton. He retired the year I graduated, and we stayed in touch over the years. He was one of my absolute favorite teachers. He helped me grow so much, not only as a musician, but as a person. He helped me through some difficult times, and I will forever be grateful for his presence in my life.
My name is Joy Willenbring-Conti, and I knew Phil from my time at UD from 2008 to 2012. I took piano lessons and did lots of vocal coaching with Phil. He was a teacher who quickly became a mentor and easily became a friend. I think his passion for music was overwhelmingly contagious and really rubbed off on me and clearly so many others. He really helped me to not only grow as a musician, but most importantly, just to deepen my own relationship with music. He really had this natural gift at just being so funny and so honest. His genuine nature really put me at ease, helped me to feel safe and comfortable, and also opened my eyes to so much more. He taught me so many musical lessons, but of course, the more important lessons were the bigger picture life lessons. A few fond memories are time spent with me, I think, in the evening times working on some of my senior recital music. He really just listened deeply and encouraged me to step outside my comfort zone and just be a fuller, more musical version of myself. Just such a gift to be able to have him as a friend and benefit from his wisdom.
Phil was a true mensch. He was a dedicated and very sincere musician. I feel so blessed having had the honor of performing on stage with him. Phil was not merely my accompanist. He was a coach, a therapist, a friend, a teacher, and my cheerleader. He was a deep thinker, very serious, but also very funny. He was a Viking on stage. He helped me to do the impossible, taking me to deep waters way out of my comfort zone, and then simply taught me to swim. Megan, making music with your dad was a journey I will never forget. I feel so blessed to have had your dad in my life. Resting peaceful, my dear friend and trusted musical partner.
Hi there, my name is Meredith Irvine, and I had the pleasure of knowing Phil from the University of Dayton's music school and piano studio, as I am a graduate from the university in 2013. I am eternally grateful for Phil. He was a mentor, a friend, and a supporter. He taught me how to feel more connected to my music in ways that still remain with me. His listening ear, humor, and wit were unmatched. Phil remains one of my inspirations in roles of mentoring and supporting others in my current work. The world lost a wonderful man loved by many. He will forever be an important part of my life that I am so grateful for.
Hi, this message is for Megan and for all who loved Phil Ferris. My name is Michelle DeLuise, and Phil would have known me as Michelle Vachon when I was a music therapy student at the University of Dayton, Ohio, and I graduated in 2003. Phil Ferris, you were the epitome of delight. You knew how to savor the moments in teaching and listening and performing music and eating amazing Chinese food and spending hours in deep philosophical conversation, sprinkled with humor and a twinkling eye. I was in awe of your playing, so full of heart and nuance. I learned so much about being a parent from you as I saw how you took such pride in Megan Bird, a true, beautiful reflection of your love. I feel so honored to have known you. Rest in sweet peace, dear friend. I've never thought of heaven having pianos, but I'm almost certain of it now, and you are sat in front of one, moving those fingers as freely as you ever could.
Funny, loving, supportive, embracing family and friends. Kind, knowledgeable about all kinds of music and musicians. Thank you, Phil, for sharing so much of you with so many. To finish up this short, relative to the breadth of Phil's life, is the end of the recital that this video opened with. It was one that he performed on his birthday in the year 2000.
for the wonderfully harmonized. Thanks very much for coming. I can guarantee this will be the last recital I give on my birthday. Thanks again for coming.